The risk-free rate for Bitcoin, as I just described it to you, 29% over 21 years. And once you understand it's volatile because the network is more useful and more leverageable, it is basically the number one. It is the number one source of credit or leverage in the world for everybody all the time. And once you understand it like that, you see the volatility and the performance are a feature of the engineering and the technology.
Bitcoin has established itself as the most powerful tool for building long-term wealth in today's digital economy. This insight comes from Michael Saylor, the executive chairman of MicroStrategy. Over the past 2 decades, Bitcoin has consistently outperformed all major asset classes, and with an annualized return of approximately 30%, it stands as the top choice for wealth preservation and growth. What sets Bitcoin apart is its unique characteristics, its absolute scarcity, decentralization, and growing adoption, which contribute to its remarkable performance. Be sure to watch until the end of the video, where Michael Saylor shares more valuable insights on why Bitcoin remains a compelling investment. Also, if you enjoy listening to crypto-related content, please show your support by liking and subscribing to this channel by following the link in my bio, and get access to my free daily crypto updates and expert predictions direct to your inbox. Each update contains on-chain data, forecasts and expert predictions. All of this is available free of charge. It only takes a moment to sign up and you can always change your mind later. Now back over to Michael Saylor.
So the real promise of Bitcoin is very simple. It's a bank in cyberspace that won't steal your money. And it's an asset that you can store your life savings in that nobody can debase or corrupt. And those are two powerful promises for the first time in the history of the human race. No one ever gave you those two promises ever before now. Build your house on a firm foundation. Don't build it on sinking sand. Don't build it on a swamp. Build it on a granite rock, on schist. And I guess if I could give the math, the risk-free rate of the dollar, if you're capitalized on US dollars and you were to say buy treasury bonds, the risk-free rate is something close to SOFR, or the standard overnight funding rate. And that ranges, but after you get paid that rate and you get taxed on it, you might get paid 5%, you get to keep 3% after tax. Maybe if you're tax-free, you get 4.5%, and if you're taxed, you get 3%. So the risk-free rate of return of your capital on that dollar standard is like in the 3% range. The risk-free rate for Bitcoin, as I just described it to you, 29% over 21 years, about 30%. So the way I look at investments is when you're pitching me an investment idea, I say, well, I've got a lot of money in Bitcoin and I'm expecting about 30% risk-free for the next 20 years. You have to actually pitch me an idea that generates more than 30% plus the risk premium plus the tax efficiency. If you told me here's a thing that'll make me 50% a year, but it was going to be taxable, that might be 40% a year or 35% a year. And I'm like, well, after the risk, it's still not as good as my risk-free rate of 30%. So if you're capitalized on Bitcoin, if you understand it, and if you understand, and if you have a long time horizon, if you're going to hold it more than 4 years, you don't care about the volatility. All you care about is the annualized return. Well, the dollar is zero ARR, zero volatility. That is to say, the dollar goes up 0% against itself each year, and the dollar is zero volatility against itself each year. So if you're on the dollar, you're living in flat land, and you're a stationary person in flat land, a pedestrian in flat land. Bitcoin is going up 60% a year against the dollar. How long? Well, since MicroStrategy made its first investment 4 years ago, it's 60%. But if you stretch back 6, 8, 10 years, I think it's also 60%. So like a decade. But you can measure it back a decade and you see it's going up 60% a year. And it's 60 volatility. It's a 60 vol against the dollar. So you should think of Bitcoin as an asset. It's like you're on a speeding train going 60 miles an hour, and you've got a flywheel spinning 60 RPM. And the pedestrian on flat land is standing on the plane watching the train go by, thinking this is scary. It's going to suck the oxygen out of my lungs. And they're thinking my money isn't an asset because it goes up 0% a year. So they have a different view toward money than the view of someone on the Bitcoin train. The person with $1 million of cash is going to have $1 million of cash in a decade. A person with $1 million of Bitcoin is going to double their capital every 18 months if they just hold on to it, right? And so they're going to double it once, twice, three, four times at that rate, right?
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to access my free daily crypto updates and expert predictions direct to your inbox.